What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hoops Corner. I'm your host, Peter Tran, and on the line, calling in from the moon, the Hubble telescope, Josh Cohen. How you doing?
From outer space, absolutely. Doing well. How are you doing today?
You see Victor Wembanyama out there?
No, he's out here. He plays basketball during the day in France, and, comes out here at night to return to his habitat.
His habitat, I like that. Our residential medical expert, Rizwan Walia, how you doing?
You know what? I noticed that Josh is hovering right over France, so this is maybe him trying to catch the Olympics from like 150,000 kilometers out.
That's a cheap way of doing it, right? If you go there, it costs thousands of dollars. Why not just orbit?
Hey, you know CBC Gem's free.
And pretty good, actually. Pretty solid app.
It's not bad. I'm tired of all the apps or all the ads at the beginning of these videos, though. It's brutal. Like, just let me watch my gymnastics.
Oh yeah, as soon as it had once it has halftime, like you got to make sure that you fast forward or pause it and then fast forward, or else the ad just go on forever. It's weird.
It's awful. What's your favorite Olympic sport to watch, Raj?
Oof. So far, or like in general in the Olympics?
Just in general. Don't say basketball because boring.
I like velodrome, like where they bike on the wood surface, like in that oval.
You like the NASCAR of biking?
But that's intense, man. Like, they're super aerodynamic, and like they're going like 65, 70K in this like weird contraption, and they're almost going like parallel to the floor. Parallel to the floor. It's crazy.
How many wipeouts occur?
I don't think that many, though.
That seems like it would really hurt if you actually fell. Oh my god.
And you got to take out like 30 people at once.
Yeah, all the bikes land on you, and you're like stuck in between. Oof.
Josh, what's your favorite? Some other biking shit?
I would say handball.
Oh, handball's cool.
It's like super physical. I don't really know the rules from when I'm watching. I'm like, are they allowed to do this? How many times are they allowed to dribble? How many steps are they allowed to take? Is there traveling in this sport? I still don't really know, but it's fun to watch them like, hack away at each other and push each other, and it's very physical.
Yeah. I like gymnastics.
It's interesting.
Gymnastics are fun, and they're all jacked.
Everyone's just the beast.
Like massive.
I just don't get
a lot of Johnny Bravo bodies out there.
Exactly, but I don't understand the scoring. That's the problem. Like, sometimes I'm like, yo, that looks sick, but then they're like, the toes are pointed a little this way. -3. I'm like, all right, you tell me.
Yeah, the curvature of her back was off. -7 points.
Yeah, confusing stuff. Almost as confusing as how Tyus Jones, who we all loved going into this offseason, scored a massive $3 million contract with the Phoenix Suns. Raj, is this one of the worst cases of like bet on yourself that you've seen in a while? Because it's not great.
This is honestly teams in the NBA just not being smart with their depth. Like, Tyus Jones is a very, very capable point guard in the NBA. He did it in a backup role behind Ja in Memphis, and maybe that was the right situation for him where he maybe excelled compared to when he went to Washington. But he is definitely better than a $3 million a year basketball player. And if you're a team that's even like a team like Indiana, or a team, maybe Indiana's not the best choice, but a team that's aiming to make the playoffs, getting Tyus Jones for even $5-6 million as guard depth is super important. Like, I'm surprised even a team like the Orlando Magic didn't get him just for depth. Like, he might not play 30 minutes a game, but if he's able to give you 20 minutes off the bench, kickstart your offense, get the ball to your wing players, your other dynamic players, that's what you want him to do. And I'm shocked. Like, it's not like he came off a big injury. It's not like he has attitude problems. He just looks like a player who went to Washington and watched his career crumble. And I don't want to blame him. Like, I'm sure he probably could have got a lot more money had he stayed with Memphis, but it's just teams not really recognizing that depth matters so much. All these teams are going to be punching themselves in the face in a couple of months when they're low on the depth chart and looking at the G League for some of these guys.
Yeah, I think this is more of a case of role definition, because he got traded to Washington, right, in the Marcus Smart deal. So it wasn't really his fault that he ended up there, right? But he had a career year. Like if you look across the board, he only averaged 1 turnover per game, which is in line with what he's always done in his career. He's been an assist to turnover machine, 7-1 last year. All of his shooting splits are way up, 49% from the field instead of 44 the previous year in Memphis, 41% from the three-point line. His effective field goal percentage went from 52 to 57. And across the board, he was just better, like 7 assists per game versus 5. He started off the season slow, but I think this is more so a matter of like the new CBA, sort of pushing players in this general realm into a specific box, which is why you see a lot of these players now extending. Even like the max level guys are doing this as well, because not a lot of teams go into off seasons now with cap space because all the teams are extending their players now, hoping that they're not going to lose them, or instead of losing them in free agency, what they do now is they extend them, and then within a year or two they trade them. So that might be the case with Jarrett Allen, who we're probably going to get to as well, signing the 3 years, $91 million, which is a great deal for Cleveland, even though the fit isn't great. But clearly, Tyus Jones wanted to rebuild his value instead of taking a little bit more money somewhere else. What was interesting that I saw in the news was Memphis offered him a deal to come back for a little bit more money, and he decided to take this deal with Phoenix because he was promised a starting spot, which was clearly the most important thing to him. Because if role definition was the most important thing to him, and he really wanted to be a starter, he ended up in the right spot where he can have a really good year with Phoenix, build up his reputation, and go back into free agency where there's going to be hopefully more money for him next year, and go to a team where he can maybe find a starting spot. But if not, he's going to probably have to settle to be the sixth man again.
Tyus Jones as like your starter. So you're looking at a lineup of Jones, Beal, Booker, Durant, and Nurkic.
Nurkic.
You gonna close with that type of lineup? I mean, you obviously have three primary scorers there already, right? And then sort of just hope that your defense can hold. Just ignore Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen.
No, I think the idea is he's going to start, but they're probably going to bring Grayson Allen within a few minutes. The problem with their team is perimeter defense, clearly, because they're going to have to ask either Booker or Beal to be the guy that chases around all the top players from basically any team in the NBA, no matter who it is, whether it's a point guard, whether it's a wing player. Like somebody has to guard these guys, right? And if you're promising Tyus Jones a starting spot to start the year, then you're going to have to bring in Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal pretty quickly just to give one of their wing players a breather in Beal and Booker.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing when you look at this fit with Tyus Jones, like I think he is going to have an opportunity to showcase his talent, hopefully secure a bigger deal, probably a multi-million dollar deal with another team, or maybe the Suns, but I don't think they're going to have the cap space. But I also think this is a classic story where these NBA teams are going to be so top heavy. Like their top three guys are going to get paid like 70% of the salary. And then players 4 till 12 are going to get the other 30%. And I think if you look at the way basketball has been, especially the last 3-4 years, teams with a lot of depth, like really good players between 4 and 7 are the teams. Like look at Denver. Boston obviously had quite a bit of depth. We're not going to talk about the Lakers and the Mickey Mouse Cup, but even with the Bucks, they had a lot of good depth. Like they had Bobby Portis, they had Allen. Like they just had a lot of good players. So to round out the roster, and I think Tyus Jones is one of those players that maybe not this year, but on another year, he's a winning player. Like I think the way he plays basketball, Josh, you touched on it. He's not a high turnover guy. He knows how to ignite an offense, and I kind of liken his game a lot to what Fred VanVleet was to the Raptors in the 2019 championship. Like just that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a bit of a different player, but in terms of role definition, I could definitely see it. He's sort of like Monte Morris on crack, you know? He just
Who they
doesn't make a
also
lot of
have.
mistakes, but he's just better.
Who they also
Yeah,
have.
that's true. They actually have Monte
Like,
Morris as a third stringer now.
that's a very strange guard lineup that Phoenix is building.
All undersized.
I don't know.
Well, they don't have a lot of choices, right? Like the fact they're able to get Jones and Morris in the offseason with basically no money and no trade flexibility either, based on them being in the second apron and have to match dollar for dollar if they're going to trade for somebody, which seems like impossible nowadays. So Phoenix is in a very tough spot. And I don't think they have his bird rights based on this contract either, since it's a 1 year deal. So he's basically going there as a rental, and they can't really trade him either because his salary's not that high. Like, what kind of player are you gonna get back for him? You're not gonna get a player of his caliber for that
Can't even
$3
get
million,
Bronny
right?
James.
So,
You get two Bronny
nope,
Jameses for
salaries
one
don't
Tyus
match,
Jones.
and I don't think they would want him anyway. There's only one person that wants him in the NBA, and it's not the Lakers.
Daddy LeBron.
Adam Silver?
Just his daddy.
But
Nobody likes my Adam Silver.
well, according to Dwayne Wade, the Suns don't need to worry because Devin Booker is an elite perimeter defender. I know we're going to talk about Olympics and later and whatnot, but yeah, defense is always going to be this team's problem. It will be interesting to see the closing lineup, especially at the center position, because I think with Nurkic as center, they lost a lot of their ability to switch, and they also don't already have great depth at the guards for defense. So the Suns' limiting factor is probably going to be the same limiting factor as it was the past year. But we'll see what Mike Budenholzer does for them. Obviously, he's been big in Milwaukee for creating a good setup and getting the best out of Brook Lopez. And maybe he finds a way to get Nurkic into this drop coverage and makes him a little more of a defensive caliber player he was back in the 2017, 2018.
I don't know about that. I don't know, man. Yusuf Nurkic does not seem as healthy, as mobile, as just anything as he used to be. It's just hurt, man. It's hard when you're older too, right? And he's got to shoulder much more of a defensive load now because in those prime years with Portland, he had like Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu beside him running the perimeter defense, right? Now it's just him and KD.
Oh my God. Whatever. They don't play defense in the NBA anyways. Let's stop this defensive talk. I brought it up. I'm going to shut it down.
Mason Plumlee's going to play more than him anyway.
Ooh,
Probably.
Plumlee.
Probably.
Wow.
Did you guys even know that Plumlee was on the team?
No.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. Mason Plumlee and Monte Morris coming back together. That used to be a thing in Denver, man. Wow.
Reigniting the Suns.
Bring back Torrey Craig.
Oh my God.
Actually, they could use Torrey Craig on
They
this team.
probably could.
They definitely could. Yeah.
I don't know where he is, but
James Jones, get on the phone and get Peter's Nuggets back, and then you know what? Why not bring back Wilson Chandler?
Oh, don't
From
play with me, man.
retirement.
Don't play those games. Can any of you tell me where Torrey Craig is right now? What team he signed to?
I'm just going to say Chicago because he was here last year.
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay.
I was hoping I could
I was going
trick
to say
you.
Milwaukee, but
I was going to say Milwaukee second, so there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no. No, sir. He's still in Chicago. Poor Tyus Jones, man. But, I mean, would you rather have Tyus Jones on your team, on a winning team? Or would you rather have the 2024 version of Russell Westbrook? Because that's what Denver chose.
are you asking
Russell?
if I'm Denver, what do I want, or if I'm any team in the league?
I'm just asking for some sort of explanation as to why you would want Russell Westbrook on a 2-year contract now in 2024.
Tickets, depth, just the body.
Tickets.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's another case of a team saying, I can fix him. I can make him do the things that he doesn't want to do so we can get the best value out of him. And, this would be the team to do it, honestly, since you have Jokic calling all the shots out there. But I don't know. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get more
Athletic.
more oomph off the bench, I guess you could say, right? Like you just want more
Energy.
transition offense, like,
Energy.
play at a faster pace, energy. Yeah,
Energy.
I understand that part of things, but come playoff time, is he going to be playable? Probably not. So then you have to find another solution off the bench. You need like the Bruce Brown type of player who can play 20-ish minutes a game, in the guard spot off your bench, and I would not trust him.
Maybe they can get Bruce Brown at the trade deadline. Toronto's not going to need him for
I
like
think this is
12
another
million.
case, though, where, I think
Jesus.
they're in the second apron, so I don't think they can do that. It has to be a one-for-one trade and it has to be dollar for dollar, so good
Yeah,
luck with that.
like literally dollar to the dollar.
Ugh. Um,
Yeah,
who,
Yeah.
who's Denver's backup point guard?
Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook.
Okay, so they definitely should have gotten a player like Tyus Jones for the contract that Phoenix did. Just because.
That was, yeah, just quickly, like, Memphis was one of the teams that was going after Jones. I forgot. Denver was the other team going after him. So it sort of surprised me that Denver wasn't the team to sign him based on how much they could offer him in terms of, his role. Like, he could have been a 25 minute per game player easy.
Yeah, but I think the issue is if he was going to get paid $4 million but come off the bench, or $3 million and start on a team with lots of media attention and a lot of exposure, and he's only signing a 1 year deal. He is betting on himself now just because he didn't get paid this time, so he's for sure getting paid next time. So I think that's what his logic was. Like, he's not
And
settling for a 4 year, $20 million deal. That's not what he wants.
it's true. And like to be fair, Tyus Jones' assist numbers should be through the roof this year. With 3 elite shooters like that, they should be it should be more than 7 assists a game like he did last year. Maybe not turnovers. That'll probably be a bit higher than the one, but nonetheless. But back to Westbrook. This connection is just strange to me. Sure, you want the energy, you want someone who brings that like veteran experience, a guy who's hungry, because that's what like it's kind of like what Denver was lacking last year was just that bit of energy. But just the fit just doesn't seem to work. I don't know. Can't really shoot as well as he used to. He somehow lost that mid-range jumper that used to be like automatic. Remember when Westbrook would just pull up from the midi and bank it? It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And now it's all gone.
But I think the biggest issue with Denver is more what they lost in terms of KCP, more than adding Russell Westbrook. Like, I'm not saying Russell Westbrook is the best fit and good for them, but I think had they had KCP, I still think they could have got something from Russell Westbrook, mainly because then you would have a bit better spacing around him. And Russell Westbrook is a player that knows how to cut, knows how to get into the lane. He's, again, still a pretty good finisher at the rim for a guard. And so, especially with Jokic being able to play a bit of point center, you have MPJ. Had you have had KCP around him, like I think the spacing would have been better, and then you would have had Russell Westbrook playing more of that cutter role, which I think could have worked. He would have been a bigger guard, giving you some matchup problems, still can take some of that pressure off of Jamal Murray, because I think Denver's biggest challenge this year is navigating the season and making sure Jamal Murray does not play more than 32 minutes a game because of his injury history. Because if Jamal Murray's injured, they're not going anywhere, and they need to find someone who's able to keep his minutes restricted and still give you some production with Jokic.
Yeah, so I think from that standpoint, I think you're right in that I think Westbrook might have a good regular season based on that, in that, he can be the Energizer Bunny off the bench. He can make sure that Murray doesn't play too much. But come playoff time, it's just a rotational type of lineup choices you have to make as a coach, in that they want Aaron Gordon to play center, you would think, right? And you can't play Aaron Gordon with Westbrook against a really good team because then you have two spots where the guys can't shoot, right? So then you got to build your secondary lineup around Westbrook, and then you lost KCP, thus you don't have as much shooting. So then you really have to hope that both Christian Brown and Strother take a huge step up and become like high volume guys. And then what do? You just play Saric, I guess, with Westbrook at all times. And then if Westbrook is not rolling, then you have to play Murray like 40 minutes a game, which is not ideal. So basically what I'm saying is they have to find a backup point guard at the trade deadline just in case this goes south,
Or
which it probably is going to.
just
Or
some shooting.
Shooting, like a shooting guard too.
Yeah.
Those are two big holes, though, right?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be hard to do that as in the situation that they're in with the cap and everything, right? So they really have to hope some of the young guys really pop this year, and they have to give them an opportunity too. But it doesn't seem like they're going to do that with the the second round pick they picked last year. I can't remember his name, but
Michael
it seemed
Malone
like he was going to get a chance.
Michael Malone does not like young draft picks. It took a lot for Christian Brown to break the threshold and actually play in the playoffs when they won.
Well, he's going to have to this
Yeah.
year because they didn't pick up anybody else. So Strother's going to have to play a lot. Brown's going to have to play a lot. And, losing KCP, like, he didn't really shoot that many threes. Like, I went back and looked at the stats. He wasn't as high volume as I thought he was.
No.
But
threat,
Porter and Murray are going to have to step it up.
Yeah.
It's all about the threat.
But, like, I think if I'm going to grade this move by the Nuggets, I think the move itself is probably like a C+ move. They didn't have to give up too much. The contract's okay. It's a 2-year deal. But I think the bigger move was not signing KCP, who fit so well with that team. Like, that was like a D move. Like
F.
Yeah, F. So
Hard F.
And if they kept KCP, I actually think this Westbrook pick could have been a B or a B- move. Like a reasonable play. But again, they, like Josh mentioned, they're gonna have huge lineup issues. They have a bit of injury issues with Murray to begin with, and they have no shooting. Like, zero.
There any disgruntled role players that they could snipe, like Furkan Korkmaz?
Oy,
Good luck.
yikes.
Anybody? Bring one of these Serbian guys over, man. Bring one of Jokic's boys. Or that German guy. Otmo? Omto?
Obst.
Yeah,
No,
bring him
yes,
over, man. That guy's a sharpshooter.
Or bring someone
Or
from
any
South
student
Sudan.
news players.
Yeah, exactly. South Sudan.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some dudes on that team. How surprised.
Yeah. Bring back Wenyan Gabriel.
No, thank you. But that Carlik Jones guy was like G League MVP like last year, 2 years ago, man. I mean, he's short as hell, so it doesn't really help in the guard position, but, just some shooting. Just somebody. Give me something.
Yeah, they were already 30th in 3-point attempts per game last year. And they lose KCP. Only took 5, which is surprising to me. But they lose him, and now it's just like, Michael Porter, just try to shoot 12 a game.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray, stop shooting mid-rangers, shoot like 10 per game. And then you hope that you get enough out of Brown and Strother. And, they're basically playing like 1990s ball almost,
Oh, they definitely are, but, with the center who's generational.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you can just double them all the time, and you don't have that threat out there, then it's going to be hard to keep up with the math.
They'll bring in Seth
Leave it to
Curry.
us.
Journeyman Seth.
I think he got signed already, didn't he?
He's on Charlotte.
Charlotte?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Charlotte's not going to use him. Give him up.
They
Charlotte.
can't even trade for him.
Yeah,
Trade
man.
Westbrook for him. There you go. 2 minimum
Yeah,
guys.
if the numbers match up perfectly.
If they do. I don't think they do, though.
This whole matching up to the dollar thing is very, very annoying. And I'm sure the GMs will hate it more than we do, obviously. But brutal. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
They just
Transaction
quickly, they have to rework the CBA in the next agreement because you're just like disincentivizing teams to try to build long-term stability because you can't sign all these guys. Like Boston did that, but they're going to be together for maybe one more year, and then they're going to have to trade at least one of their guards, and then maybe Porzingis. So they have to do something like what Bill Simmons mentioned, in that if you draft a guy and he's with your team for X amount of time, he should count as X percentage towards the cap instead of the full 100%. That way you can use that money towards other players. I think something like that would make sense. So that way if you're, homegrown, like Indiana, for example, with Halliburton, if he stays there for 10 years or something, maybe on year number 7, he's only 70% against the cap instead of 100, something like that, Like you need to reward teams that draft well and make good moves.
They definitely need to have some rule where if you get a player, re-sign him or have him for a minimum of 5 years, like every additional year is 5% or something less against the cap or something. So it incentivizes teams
Reward continuity.
Yeah, exactly. Said the Washington Wizards. They continue to suck.
Oh, man. They are going to be generationally bad this year.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're that's one team I'm not going to watch games of. I can tell you that much. They're a hard skip. They are a hard skip, along with Atlanta this year. Oof. Get Bogdan Bogdanovic to Denver somehow, man.
That would be a
That'd
good
be
pick.
great. He'd be
Yeah,
like
I
a,
mean, he plays on the same team as Jokic during the Olympics, right?
you
So
know,
they're both Serbian. Get him
yep,
on the team.
that'd be wonderful. Uh, I mean, okay, where do you guys want to go with this? Do we really need to talk about Precious Achua getting 6 million for a year? Kind of
It
contract,
it's a
or
fair
you know,
contract. Like the interesting thing, no trade clause for his contract, and he's in the Tyus Jones situation. This isn't. He's hoping Tom Thibodeau runs him into the ground. He gets some exposure. He hopefully gets better at actually playing offense. And someone will pay him like a 3 year, $30 million a year deal in the future. But next,
all right. Well, let's move into Cleveland then. Fun Cleveland. I never thought that would be a thing to say.
Cleveland
Jarrett Allen,
rocks.
boo. Jarrett Allen, 3 years, 91 million. I mean, Josh, you already talked about it. The fit, I don't know. We saw what happened in the playoffs. You can't really play Mobley and Allen together and expect, a purely dominant team, like a real contender, right? Something's got to give.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly just a move to get good value for the player to be able to sign him later. Like, it's a very good value contract. He signed for basically the exact same amount of money as Isaiah Hardenstein, and they're similar type of players in the roles that they play. I think Jared Allen's a little bit better on offense. Hardenstein's better on defense and just stronger on the boards. Um, but they're similar players in nature that they play 30, 35 minutes a game. They're not really going to hurt you out there. But again, the problem is the fit. So I think ultimately within a year and a half, he's probably going to get dealt for a wing player. And then you move Mobley to center once his body is capable of playing center for more than 25 minutes a game. And you try to rework the roster based on the guards that you have. But I think they're going to go over like a complete overhaul in the next 2 to 3 years. And ultimately, I think that it's just going to be Garland and Mobley that are left on the team in maybe 2.5 years' time, with Mitchell eventually getting traded somewhere else as well.
yeah, I think the
Oh,
big Mitchell will get traded. I think give it one more year of just probably you can put this whole season and put it on rewind and put it on repeat. Probably gonna have a similar outcome. This team is just not built well. Like a lot of their players have overlap and then they have clear deficiencies. They don't have really that athletic wing. Um, they don't have the best spacing either. Um, so yeah, like I agree with what Josh had to say. I do think the Jared Allen deal is a good deal, and I don't think this is bad team building. I just think that they have a lot of players that have similar roles, and they don't seem to gel together. And who's their new coach?
I think it's Kenny
Yeah,
Atkinson,
Kenny
if I'm not
Atkinson. I
yeah,
mistaken.
think. Yeah,
yeah. Reunited with Jarrett Allen
yeah. But
from the Brooklyn days.
we'll see. Jared Allen, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up making it to a contender, like especially with that kind of deal. Um, I always felt like had Toronto not gotten Jakob Pertl, he would have been like a great pick there. Um, Maybe more historically than now. I think Toronto's obviously gone in a completely different direction. I think it'll be really interesting because I don't think his services will be available this year, but he's a good player. Like he's a solid, I would say, conservative center that can win you games and probably get you into the second round of the playoffs. But probably that's his ceiling in terms of his role on a team.
Yeah, I think Kenny Atkinson's biggest job this year is to try to find a way to make those two guys fit, because I don't think you can have them as two of your highest paid players and then just staggering them the entire game. I don't think that's going to work based on the money allotment of the roster and the overlap, like you mentioned, because then you're just playing George Niang a lot of minutes, which makes sense in the regular season, I guess, but come playoff time, he becomes a wallflower. So you have to figure something out there. And they do have a lot of talent on this team, honestly. Like, it's a very talented roster. It just, yeah, the fit issues are very apparent.
How old do you think Donovan Mitchell is?
Donovan Mitchell is 28 years old.
I was going to say 27.
It's 27.
Okay.
Like literally into the prime of his career. And you expect them to choose Darius Garland over Donovan Mitchell, Josh? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, if you're going, it depends what direction they're going in, right? Like you would assume that if they're going with the youth movement, you try to get as much as you can for Jarrett Allen, probably maybe not next year during the trade deadline, but in the offseason. And at that point, you try the roster out with whoever you trade Jarrett Allen for, plus whatever else you get in free agency. Try that out the next year. And then when you see that the backcourt is just too small and there's just too much overlap and the chemistry issues may become very apparent there, I think at that point you have to trade Mitchell because he would probably have the higher value to a team that's looking to win right away. I love Darius Garland, by the way. Like if they could have, got like a haul from the Spurs and maybe you go for it, but I don't know. I wouldn't trade Garland if I had to choose between the two because I think he's like legitimately really, really good. And I think he showed that before Mitchell got there. But, with Mitchell there, he's deferring a lot, obviously, so which makes sense because he's a better player. But in the long run, you're going to choose youth. So I think that's the direction they go in.
Yeah, I think Mitchell's also just we fawn over the stats, but he's such a high volume player. Like he always has been. He's played on teams where he's getting the ball a lot. Again, his game is great. He offers something unique. I think he can score at all three levels, but his usage is also very high. Interestingly enough, like when I look at this team, I don't know why, maybe I'm just thinking a lot about the Raptors, but I liken this Cleveland team a lot to the Raptors with DeMar DeRozan and Donovan Mitchell being DeMar and Garland being Kyle Lowry. And you got the two bigs with here you have Gasol and Ibaka, right? Like you have this issue here where the player that's high usage, in this case, Donovan Mitchell, it's not, I don't want to say he's thwarting their potential, but the pieces just don't fit because he takes up such a big usage. And you have to have very specific players to play with him. And like Josh, I do think, unless Darius Garland gets injured, and let's hope he doesn't, but I do think they will pick him over Mitchell because I think they'll get a better haul for Mitchell as well. And just because the superstardom and some team will want him, like the Nets or whatnot. But yeah, I think this year, going back to the Cavs, like they're probably going to be another, I don't want to say bubble team. They'll probably be a 4 or 5 seed. Same as they were this year. Like repeat it. Just run it back.
Donovan Mitchell to the Nets. I never thought of that one.
He wants to go to New York, but like they just don't have the money, and he's not from Nova.
Nobody considers Brooklyn is not New York. Let's be real, man. When players want to go to New York, they want to go to the Knicks. They don't want to go to New York. Yeah, we saw what happened with KD and Kyrie and Brooklyn.
But they went there. You know what I mean? And money talks. And imagine Mitchell has his own team again. Like he's gonna love that.
Yeah.
Just quickly, who's going to be worse, Brooklyn or Washington?
Washington.
Ooh.
I don't know about that. Have you seen Brooklyn's roster?
No.
Yeah.
It's awful.
They
traded like everyone away. And plus, they're going to trade Cameron Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith very shortly, too. So all they're going to have left in terms of actual NBA players is like Dennis Schroeder and Nick Claxton, who also might get traded. So
Schroeder's going to be out of there. Schroeder's that guy who's going to be on every team in the league at some point.
They still have Ben Simmons, though.
So Schroeder's going to get Ben
Okay,
Simmons.
next question. Is Ben Simmons in the league this time next year? Is he going to get signed by somebody?
This is this final year of his contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we see the end of the Ben Simmons project.
That project's been failing.
I think like what happened today, I think you're going to see an announcement just like what Gordon Hayward made at 30, what is he, 32 years old?
No.
He's like 32, 33 max.
He's like 34. He's pretty old, man. Hayward was like...
Jordan Hayward?
Yeah. 34 years old.
Oh.
No. Thought he was 32.
No,
How old is Ben Simmons?
Ben Simmons is, before I look...
Jamal Murray's age. Whatever Jamal Murray is. He's like 27, 28.
Ben Simmons is probably 29 now.
28.
Okay.
He should be like in his prime right now.
He has prime back injury.
prime runway model, man. Ben Simmons.
He's the ultimate case of, he got the money and then he just did not care anymore.
Yeah, he's probably going to see the new CBA. All of a sudden his back's going to get better, play another 10 games, get another contract, and then his back goes out, and that's it. He's hunting for one more contract. I think that's it.
It's the beginning of August. We're only like 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks away from Ben Simmons' mixtapes coming out. It's gonna be great.
He probably ran them back in like 2017, 2018. It's just different outfits. Like, just leak them.
It's actually an AI rendering of what his jump shot would look like if he practiced.
That's probably it.
He would do that too.
I mean, wouldn't you, to get a payday? I would. Why not, man?
And just so he doesn't have to go back on the court either because he's so lazy. He'd rather be partying.
Hey, man. Do you, Benny? Do you? Don't play for any of your teams that you committed to.
Speaking of, honestly, Australia probably could have used him just because they have some NBA players.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
You
see a bunch of players that are not big NBA players, but when they play for their national teams, they are someone else. Like, they are possessed. And you know what? This would have been the tournament where Ben Simmons, if he actually was serious of returning back to basketball, there probably wouldn't be that much pressure on him. He's not playing for a powerhouse team. He shows up and he plays well, great. He doesn't play well, he's coming back from injury. Look at Ben Simmons, but it's Ben Simmons.
I mean, seeing as Patty Mills is like the captain of that team and he played with Ben Simmons, I think there's probably 0% chance that would ever happen because he's seen it live. And I don't think he wants Ben Simmons to ruin that roster. Australia is actually really good, honestly.
Yeah, they're good.
Like, they're probably the 4th best team in the Olympics right now.
So 4th best?
Yeah, the disrespect to South Sudan.
So, hold on.
You have to have the U.S.,
Yes.
Canada,
Yes.
Germany,
So
and then Australia.
you would pick this Australian team over France?
Yeah, France has looked really
Yes,
bad.
100%.
France barely beat the Rui-led Japan.
You take them over Japan?
France's guards are awful. They're terrible.
You take the Boomers over that 5'6" Japanese guy that signed to the Grizzlies?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, shouts to that guy. I think he's on a 2-way contract or something, or a G League contract or whatever. But shouts to that guy, young buck.
He's getting
no idea what his name is. No idea what his name is, but shouts to that guy.
That guy.
Yeah, man. You don't need
Watanabe's brother's playing too, right?
Who?
Yuta Watanabe?
Yeah.
Isn't his brother playing with him?
Yeah, Watanabe's playing.
There's 2 Watanabes
too,
on the
right?
team?
I think so. No?
I gotta look this up. Hold on.
Do some research, Peter. Yeah, but it's honestly, like, if you're looking at the 12 teams that are in the tournament, this current edition, I would say Australia is probably the 4th best team.
Yeah, I think that, I want Canada to win, obviously, but I think Germany is probably a better team than them. And I also have a bet on Schroeder to win the MVP at the tournament, so I hope that, if Canada doesn't win, hopefully Germany does.
So that's the real reason you want
over the US, eh?
It was great odds for Schroeder. It was like 30-1 odds, and if Germany actually wins the Olympics, he's going to be the MVP, so why not, right? But I think with the next few games, I think Canada has to beat Spain by a lot of points in order to stay out of the US's bracket in the second round, but they have clinched being in the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they have.
So, yeah, they just have to make sure the point differential is very high in the next game against Spain tomorrow at 11 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully that happens, and, Canada will get the U.S. in the gold medal round instead of the round before.
Hopefully. You remember that time that Josh thought that Aaron Wiggins was Andrew Wiggins' brother?
Oh, yes. One of
Still
Josh.
Yeah, it totally just happened again. Yuta Watanabe and Hugh Watanabe are not related.
This guy...
Is that the white guy in the team?
No, that's a guy. I think his name is Wilkinson. Yeah.
Well, he had a sick block on
Wemby.
Gobert?
That was on Wemby.
That was on Wemby.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy is named Josh Wilkinson. Or Hawkinson, sorry. Josh Hawkinson.
Did he live in Japan for like a year and they just said,
No, I
"Yeah,
saw
you're
him.
pretty good.
I
Come
saw
on
him
in."
like last time the Olympics were around. Like he's been there.
Yeah,
Good for that guy, man.
good for
He's
Josh.
been there, yeah.
So I'm assuming we all think the U.S. is going to win the Olympics. There's no real question here.
Yeah, they're winning. There there is no situation. Oh, thumbs up. Yep, they're winning. There is no situation that I
Are you not controlling that?
no, it's just this. I don't know how that happened. Everyone give me a thumbs up if you think the
Are you
US.
controlled by AI?
Yeah, it's Zoom. We paid for premium now. We're official. Two thumbs up?
Okay.
Oh my goodness, what is happening?
Why doesn't mine work?
You gotta hold it up right in front of the camera, huh?
No, man. Yo, Raj is doing something, Josh. Don't trust him.
What?
Not acceptable.
No.
Raj is doing something, man.
All right, cut this part out. But I think the only team that can beat the U.S. though is Germany. Even in the the preliminary games that they played, Germany played them really tough. And obviously in the World Cup games, obviously not the same players and everything, but Germany had their number in those. So Germany just has a style that they have a shot. Like they basically play like the same type of style as South Sudan, and that they play super fast. They actually have some NBA players in their team, and the biggest advantage they have is the continuity. Going back to that with the previous talk about the NBA teams, is that these guys have been together for 6 to 8 years now,
Yeah.
playing every summer together, not just in the world stages, World Cups, Olympics, etc. So they know how to play with each other, and they know how to where each other likes the ball on the floor, and they're going to get to their stuff regardless of what the U.S. is throwing at them. And I think once the U.S. actually faces some adversity for the first time, like you want to be the team that actually gets them in that scenario for the first time, hopefully in the medal rounds. I think they're going to finally get tested eventually against. It's not going to be Serbia. I think it's going to be Germany. And I do want to say Canada, but the U.S. basically does exactly what Canada does at a higher level. So
At like 4 times the level of what Canada does, unfortunately. Maybe
I
two.
think with Canada, it all depends on if their perimeter wing defenders actually get in foul trouble if they end up do play in the U.S. Because when Lou Dort is on the court, like Canada just
Oh
dominates.
my
Like he's like a plus like
goodness.
41 when he's on the court right now. And he's been incredible. Even on offense, he's been good so far. Dylan Brooks continues to be good in the Olympics somehow. I don't know.
FIBA Dylan,
Just
man. FIBA
yeah, I
villain.
mean, World Cup, he was amazing. FIBA, he's been amazing. So good for him.
Roger's right. There's just certain guys who just show up for the international stage. Dennis Schroeder and Dylan Brooks.
Can't hate him. Well, we can. Dylan the villain. But yeah, honestly, let's just talk about FIBA basketball because I know we're talking about which team's going to win it. And if the US play at 75% of what they're capable, they just have so much depth. They have so much versatility. They're just more athletic. Like, I think there are a lot of teams that can give the US some trouble or a bit of a challenge, maybe top 1 to 5, 1 to 6, but definitely not with the same depth as what the US can do. And yes, the games are shorter and the starters are able to play like 75, 80% of the game. But look at that stat when Jokic was on. I think Serbia was plus. And when he was off, they were like minus 33 in those like 7 or 8 minutes. So it just shows you that a lot of these teams have good players. It's just the depth isn't there. But let's just talk about how FIBA basketball games start on time. There's not endless commercials. They don't do these stupid endless replays. Players are arguing less with the referee. There's more defense. Like you're allowed to like, if someone's asking or like someone's showing for the ball, you can put your body into them. You're not going to like hit them across the face or push them down, but you can prevent the entry or let them know you're there. Like it's stupid watching the NBA. It's like literally watching a non-contact sport. And FIBA's the game would be better off. I would argue that FIBA basketball on average is better than any regular season NBA game. Just the quality of the actual product.
Yeah, I think the way that the game is constructed and that, there's not a lot of stoppages, I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's mostly what you're talking about because, like, honestly, the NBA changed in the second half of the season last year. I think that they went to this type of basketball, honestly. Like, it was very physical in the second half of the season going into the playoffs. the rules changed. Like, you can't deny that. All the players said the same thing, too. There were games in the regular season where Boston had 0 free throws the entire game, and the game took like 2 hours. So you can't tell me the rules didn't change halfway through the season. It was way more physical,
Yeah, but
a lot more, there's a lot of things that were not called in the second half of the year.
it
So
the
I
diff-
don't think it's that much different than what we're seeing in the Olympics right now.
No, I disagree strongly. And the main reason is you could watch the NBA game and you'll hear every single game, oh yeah, it's James Harden. He's going to get that call. Like what the fuck is that? Like, pardon my language, but like, or oh yeah, like Jason Tatum, he's always going to get that foul. Like, what? It's a player going to the rim. Who gives a fuck if it's Jason Tatum or Watanabe? Right? The foul should be a foul if it is a foul. Like, it's not like, oh, because Jason Tatum couldn't finish at the rim, we're going to blow the whistle late and give him the 2 free throws. You don't see any of that shit in FIBA. You really don't.
I think that was before the changes that were made in the regular season, honestly. Like, you didn't see that nearly as much in the second half of the year. I do agree that it's much better for the game that, these random Joel Embiid running into guys and throwing the ball up is not happening, obviously, in the Olympics. But the biggest change, honestly, is the game flow. Like, the fact that there's not a lot of commercials, and the commercials that they do have is like a minute long instead of 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the biggest change. Like, it's just a matter of keeping the game going. There's not as many stoppages for the instant replays either.
Yeah.
And when they have the instant replays, you actually follow along with what the referees are saying, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And they don't have to go to Secaucus. They don't have to talk to a bunch of people in their ear. They just go to the monitor and say what they think. The fans hear what they say. So it takes them like a minute instead of 5 minutes.
The problem with NBA basketball is they were getting like, and it's for their stats. It's so that they can break more records, so they can advertise their game better. It's the reality. It's like, you want to see, oh my God, is James Harden going to go for his 4th straight triple-double away from home, playing in the black Brooklyn Nets jersey? Like, that's what the fuck ESPN talks about, right? And it's just stupid. Like, they need a storyline, so they generate it artificially, because no one wants to see, well, no one. The media can't sell, and that's their problem, good basketball, because they don't have people that actually understand the game, that are entertaining to watch, maybe, or people don't enjoy that. But
okay, so this is a perfect transition into the last thing I wanted to talk about, the whole Jason Tatum controversy, and that the media just like basically created this just because we live in this day and age where, with the social media day and age, you have to be talking about something even though the team won by 30 points. Like, who cares if he didn't play? It was the right move to make, clearly, because they won by 30 against Serbia. And then he sat Joel Embiid, and did that become like a big story? No. So why is it a big deal? Even Jason Tatum's comment after the game, like, oh, I was on the cover of 2K25, and I just won an NBA championship, and I got all these endorsements now, so this was a rude awakening for me. Whatever the hell he said. It's like, shut the hell up, man. Like, you know what you're signing up for. You're playing like trash. The first shot he took in the last game, he hit the side of the backboard in a wide-open three-pointer, and his only points of the game were like an alley-oop from Curry, which I was surprised he actually made. Jason Tatum sucks.
So I
full superstar.
I
Jimmy Butler's better.
Whoa.
He is.
I didn't know you were going to go there. I completely agree with you. FIBA, I'm not saying FIBA basketball is more competitive or this. I just, as a fan of the game and the competitive nature of the game, I actually enjoy watching these games a lot more than I've ever watched any FIBA games. And comparing the regular season games and some playoff series, but most regular season games, I would rather watch FIBA quality basketball than most NBA regular season games.
Well, it's not. That's not a fair comparison, because this is not like a regular season game for these teams.
I'd rather watch this than the fucking in-season tournament. That's the equivalent.
But the teams don't care about the in-season tournament. Like, these teams care, right? Like that's a major part of it. You don't have guys who are just, dicking around on defense all the time. Like, everyone's D'ing up because it's a short tournament. You have 2 weeks,
Yeah, but
right? You have
but
3 games in the first round, and then to advance.
yeah, but
I think the biggest thing too is like it's 40 minutes long, right? And then thus you can play these guys less minutes because of that. Or if you have a deep roster, obviously you can do that. But if you're playing like with Serbia, maybe come the medal rounds, maybe Jokic plays 40 minutes. Who knows? We might have to do it that way. But ultimately, I think the biggest change is logistically and like how they structure the game to be
yeah,
shorter. I think that's the biggest. I think in terms of the gameplay itself, this equates to a playoff game, right?
yeah, but
And I think, go ahead.
yeah, but I think a big part of it is actually the rules itself as well. Like I also find it ridiculous. So in FIBA rules, what's the defensive 3-second rule? Exactly. Because in the NBA, they pick and choose when they want to call it. And I understand you don't want someone camping out in the paint. Right? Like I get the philosophy. But I also think if you're gonna implement the rule, then implement it and enforce it. Or don't have the rule. Right? Like there's like we can't have rules in the sport that, like, for instance, when I'm watching FIBA basketball and there's, let's say, Kevin Durant is off the ball and he's trying to get positioning, in 10 years of watching Kevin Durant in that position, I've never seen as much physicality allowed against him as I got to see when it was Serbia playing him, defending him. And it was just good to... It was... Well, sure, Draymond gets the benefit of the doubt a lot when, obviously, the Warriors were playing Durant and whatnot. But, like, you just get to see... I would argue a lot. Like, I'm watching the game, I'm like, yeah, that's clearly a foul, yes. Or, yeah, no, that's not a foul. That's a 50-50 ball. They both dove for it. One person got it, like, oh, the other person tripped over the guy's legs. Who cares? They both went for it. It's fair play. No one's here to injure anyone. And it's nice that they're not fucking arguing. Because they don't have the right to. You argue, you probably get a T, and that's one of your 5 fouls. I also think that's another thing the NBA should go to is 5 fouls.
No, I think you had it in reverse there. I think what you were saying was correct in that a technical foul should be part of your fouls.
Yeah, and you should...
I wouldn't go to 5. Because you want to see the best players playing, right?
Yeah, but I don't want you...
So
I don't want you fouling.
Changing that to 5 fouls would not make any sense.
I don't want you fouling.
Luka would foul out in the first half of every game.
Yeah, but
then he'd shut up finally.
Yeah, but that would be good because then he would have to either learn how to play defense without fucking fouling and stopping the game every 30 seconds, or he's not playing. And that affects his contract. Right? Like, why? It's 48 minutes. Why give you 6 times to stop the game because you're lazy and tired and don't want to shuffle your feet? And you take a take foul or off the ball foul or you want to get a sub in. Dumb shit.
I still think the biggest, like, just quickly to summarize, I think the biggest the biggest comparison change between the two things is just logistics. I think the fact that they don't have to whore themselves out to all the different brands and having 3-minute commercials is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual gameplay, like, not having the random Embiid fouls where they're just stat chasing and, doing everything they can to bait the refs, that is a huge change, obviously. But I must say, the one thing I do hate, the unsportsmanlike fouls are complete nonsense. Like, you grab a guy's arm who's going up and you call that an unsportsmanlike foul, and that's why Rui was out of the game or whoever it was. Like, what was that? That was nonsense. And the fact they have to call it based on the rules, like, it was actually correct that they did that. But that's nonsense. Like, come on.
Yeah, I rather have the rule and call it than have the rule, call it when I want it to call it. That's like the NBA.
At least they're not going to the monitor.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't go to the monitor for that, did they?
No.
Okay.
Straight up. I think this is all just a Raj plot against LeBron being a superstar of the league.
LeBron ruined the game.
It's cool.
LeBron ruined the game. I hope Japan knocks out USA.
I must say. Bench him in the next game.
Bench. It's his turn.
No, don't bench LeBron, man. I need those assists. Come on now. Wallet first, Josh. You know how this goes. My bets take priority over everything.
Well, I hedged my MVP bet by betting him, so wasn't very good odds.
No, it was not. Oh man! All right, let's call it here. I think we've gone long enough, and after Raj's long rant, I kind of need to take a drink.
Thank you for listening to my monologue.
And I did not expect any of that, but I like it. I like how heated you are over FIBA basketball. Good job, man. I want to thank everyone for listening. Please remember to rate and subscribe. We're on all the major podcast platforms. You can find us on all the socials at HoopsCornerPod. And until next time, peace.